Alright, let's start looking at the first basic tool of management, the organizing board. To start with, I want to give you a few of the basic principles. And the first principle demonstrates the three basic conditions of existence, which can be expressed in these words: be, do, and have. Each one of us at any time is a certain person, and that is be. While we are being someone, we are doing something. And by this doingness, we get a certain result. And that result is have. For example, what's your beingness right now? You're a spectator. What are you doing as a spectator? You're watching, listening, possibly writing something down. And then what is the result you'd like to have because of these actions? I think you could formulate it like this: real knowledge and skills that you can apply, which can then benefit you and your environment. Let's take a look at all this from yet another viewpoint. Anything and everything starts with an idea. Then comes the actions, then the result. Speaking of this sequence, I'm sure you've seen various non-optimum conditions in life. There are people who are simply pouring out ideas, but they're completely unable to act. Because, as you well know, it's at this action stage that you run into barriers and resistance, and some just don't have the guts to overcome all of this. And that's the first non-optimum condition: too many ideas. Here's another non-optimum condition. A person carries out too many actions, but without any real results. You know, he's kind of starting this and that and the other, but never finishing anything. And here you get the impression that, he's being very energetic and all that, a very goal-orientated person. However, all this busyness doesn't benefit the employer or increase his profits. That's the way it seems to me. In my opinion, there is a really funny term which came about because of this, which we call the IFA, imitation of furious activity. It's a certain sickness, the IFA syndrome. For example, there are people you could call office weed. They are especially liable to have this disease. The executive or the owner steps into the door and social networking programs fold up on all the monitors. And this is the exact moment when the illness goes into the acute stage. That's when we can observe that the very same imitation of furious activity. From this, you could make a very obvious conclusion that the optimum condition would be a balance of sorts among all of these components. That is to say, a person has an idea, he acts with that idea, and he brings the action to fruition, getting the expected or desired result. Remember we talked about the need of clearing words? So let's clear one word right now. Not in the usual sense of that word, but in a sense that we shall often use. It's the word hat. So, hat, slang for the title and work of a post in an org, taken from the fact that in many professions such as railroading, the type of hat worn is the badge of the job. L. Ron Hubbard. Let's clarify that. Basically, it has to do with the same idea of beingness. If a person is someone, you could say that he wears a certain hat. In a company, the person could be wearing the hat of an accountant or the director or of a salesperson. In a family, he could have the hat of a husband or a father. In a movie theater, he has the hat of a spectator. At a college, he's wearing the hat of a student or a professor. So whatever the job is he has to do should be related to what post he's occupying right now, or, in other words, what hat he's wearing at this moment.